Hey guys, what's up? It's another week of Find Your Film. I'm really psyched this week because this is the week when we do director spotlights. This episode is not a director spotlight, but this is the day that we do double duty podcast. The first podcast is our weekly podcast where me, Bruce Purkey, the story of Purkey. That's interesting. I'm referencing our YouTube channel, which is Rustomire, Rustomire. That is headed up by Bruce Purkey, the story of Purkey. He actually uploads our podcast video style on his Rustomire YouTube channel. Check it out. And of course, oh boy, I'm looking at names again from our YouTube thing. Eric Holmes has decided the audacity. By the way, I'm such a horrible podcast editor. I love Audacity. That's the only thing I can actually edit on Audacity, I'm sure. But you, Eric Holmes, you have the audacity to call yourself Eric Sorkin. That's like me calling myself Greg the Dragon Lee Srisavasdi. Srisavasdi. That's horrific. That is in reference. I'm just gonna spoil it right now.
It could have been
Sorkin.
Bruce Purkey.
Eric Sorkin, aka Eric Holmes. This is in reference to the trial of the Chicago 7. You got to check out our. There is a gorilla right next to Bruce Purkey who just waved. He just came in there. Folks. You got to check out the videos on Russell Meyer's YouTube channel. I was a little bit scared. There was it Bruce Purkey? Was that a gorilla or an ape? I'm not good with the animals. Or is it just a primate? Are we primates? Was it a chimpanzee? What was it, Bruce? What was behind you?
I didn't see anything. What are you talking about?
Eric Sorkin, you're the writer. You're the natural writer. What was behind Bruce Purkey as the shadow descended? What was that?
I see an Evil Dead picture, runaway train.
Okay,
so I see a little bear cage from the Midsommar.
Okay, folks, Find Your Film.
I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure what you're talking about.
For your audio listeners, this is a radio drama, so I'm actually going to try to paint a picture. Bruce Purkey and Eric Sorkin, aka Eric Holmes, are trying to make me believe that I'm seeing things, that I'm going a little bit cuckoo in the cuckoo clock. I did see a gorilla behind Bruce Purkey. Might have been a real gorilla, or may have been one of his sons dressed up in gorilla regalia. But enough of that. That's horrific. Are you guys gaslighting me? By the way, I've never seen Gaslight. That's a movie I have to see down the road. I also have to see Uncle Peckerhead. Again, it's been another week and I haven't seen Uncle Peckerhead. I am sorry to the filmmakers behind that. And because the reason why I'm very, very sorry is Bruce Purkey really loves the movie. And I don't know if you know this, Bruce Purkey, Eric Holmes, we're going to talk about a movie. He said, this movie is one of my favorite movies. It's going to be a toss-up. Bruce Purkey. Eric Holmes said this. Eric said it's going to be a toss-up between this movie and Uncle Peckerhead for Film of the Year. And I remember him saying this 2-3 days ago. And I go, I really need to see Uncle Peckerhead. Now, enough with the preamble. Do we have any rewinds this week? Have we become so narcissistic we don't even watch each other's movies anymore? The answer is, folks, is yes. Now, we're gonna not bury the lead. We're not burying the lead. We are making negative dollars on this podcast. We don't get any revenue coming in. I'm not asking you listeners for revenue. I'm just going to say one of the cool things of doing this podcast, other than hanging out with my buddies Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes Sorkin, is we get to once in a while get really cool screener links from movies. We're all movie fans, and we each received a screening link for the new Aaron Sorkin film, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, I am going to start off with you, Bruce Purkey. The Trial of the Chicago 7. Have you always been a huge Aaron Sorkin fan?
I'd say I'm moderate. I think we talked about last time, Molly's Game, I think is probably my favorite of his films, but I was never a big Sorkin TV guy. Like, I never watched a lot of those TV shows.
The West Wing, you never saw that?
Yeah, I never watched much of that at all. So Aaron Sorkin was a little bit of a lost. Like, I always heard about it, and I always heard about the awesome writing, but I was never really in on it in that sense. So I guess I'm more of a latecomer to the Aaron Sorkin fandom, but I am a fan of what I have seen lately.
Okay, lately. That's a good little tease. Eric Holmes, I think you differ a little bit with Bruce Purkey on your I'm assuming that you've always been a huge Aaron Sorkin fan, or maybe not. Maybe did you grow into loving his work?
It kind of edged into it, I guess. Yeah, you ever have those ones where um, you see people's movies, you like them, but it's not until later where you realize who it is. Like I've always liked Alien 3, but it wasn't until well after Fight Club came back that I even knew that David Fincher was the one that directed it. This kind of same with Aaron Sorkin. I like The Few Good Men. I like Malice. When I saw Charlie Wilson's War, I like that, but it wasn't. I didn't know those as Aaron Sorkin movies, and I've always heard the name. And then I don't know when I really got into them, but it kind of it kind of eased into it a little bit.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan
Eric,
currently, for
you,
sure.
Eric, you just jogged my memory. You just pulled out the Malice reference. Very cool. I remember that there's that show-stopping, what is it, I Am God speech from by Alec Baldwin in
You
Malice.
ask me if I believe in God. I am God.
Very good. See, Bruce Purkey, you should have fallen in love with Aaron Sorkin just by that speech from over 25 years ago. Where are you? Where have you been, man? But at least you're joining on the train. I'm a little bit between Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes regarding the love for Sorkin. Here's the thing. I actually interviewed this little name dropping. I interviewed Aaron Sorkin at a radio roundtable years ago for this movie called The American President, which you all know, Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. And I asked them about a couple of secrets to screenwriting and what it takes to become an effective writer. And you know what? I don't have that sound because even though Aaron Sorkin is an effective writer, I am not an effective journalist. I never kept my archives. It's lost somewhere in the ether. Probably someone over at Westwood One got all of my interview tapes from 19 years and probably threw them in the dustbin. So my radio roundtable interview with Aaron Sorkin is lost. But that's a sad moment. I wish I had that Aaron Sorkin sound. But we all know how great Aaron Sorkin is as a writer. The thing is, The Trial of the Chicago 7, 2 hours and 8 minutes. Okay, 2 hours and 8 minutes, comes out, October 16th? I believe October 16th on Netflix. Bruce Purkey, before you take a sip of your, what is that? Are you having water? What is coffee?
It's bourbon. No, it's coffee.
It's bourbon. Oh, wow. Now, I've never mixed bourbon and coffee, by the way. That'd be an interesting mix to do. I've done Irish coffee, but Bruce Purkey, your thoughts overall on The Trial of the Chicago 7. We all know what it's about. Do we need a plot synop onto Chicago 7? Let me just give a little thing before you answer. I'm going to give the Netflix plot synopsis. What was intended to be a peaceful protest at the 1968 Democratic National Convention turned into a violent clash with police and the National Guard. The organizers of the protest, including Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, Tom Hayden, and Bobby Seale, were charged with conspiracy to incite a riot, and the trial that followed was one of the most notorious in history. All-star cast, amazing writing. Bruce Purkey, 2 hours and 8 minutes. Was it worth all that time spent on a movie?
I would say absolutely. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And I feel like for a little over a 2-hour movie, they cram a lot of stuff in there. So to me, it feels anything but boring. It moves at a breakneck speed. And in fact, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but the way he even will intercut the same scene with like 2 to 3 different sources. So that makes it just really like active, I think, visually and auditorily and just narratively. And it's surprisingly, for a courtroom drama, it's a crowd pleasing movie, and it's way more humorous than I thought it would be. I was really pleasantly surprised by the amount of humor in here, mixed in with some maddening political reality. So I really liked it quite a bit.
Okay, Eric Holmes, I'm not going to spoil what your reaction is, but before you actually answer that question, whether you like this movie or not, do you need to just take a moment, because you're going to be so excited talking about your reaction to The Trial of the Chicago 7. Can't wait to hear your answer on this.
This may take a second. I've never been on trial for my taste in movies before. I fucking love this movie so goddamn much. Jesus Christ. I believe I saw this on Saturday and then Sunday and then Monday and then again on Monday. and the okay. Oh, I knew this would happen. I can't get my brain together
because you love it so much. Because
I'm just so excited about this.
Okay, well, let me interject first.
Okay.
You've seen it at least 3 times. Let's just say that you've seen it at least 3 times, correct?
Yes, at least 3 times.
Okay, so you're saying A, do you think it has a high watchability factor? Do you get more? Did you get more with repeated viewings of this film?
Yeah, this is kind of like a Boogie Nights to me, where like Bruce said, it's real fun. It's a really funny movie, and it also has its dramatic elements to it. But yeah, it's just really entertaining overall. The more I watch it, you find little. Aaron Sorkin's really good about leaving little nuggets of comedy and nuggets of introspection and stuff that you probably don't catch the first time. And the 3+ times I've seen it, start picking more. And I'm sure I'm going to watch this another 50 more times and just keep picking more and more out of it. I love everything about this movie. I was a huge fan of Molly's Game. When I heard that Aaron Sorkin was first directing Molly's Game, I was really interested to see what he would do. And I love Molly's Game. And then this came out, and it, based on my love of Molly's Game, this made me even more excited for this one. And I watched this one, and the only thing that disappoints me about this is that I wonder what A Few Good Men and Malice and American President and Moneyball and Charlie Wilson's War, I wonder what those would have been like had Aaron Sorkin directed those as well. I'm just absolutely tickled that he's getting into directing. Not only is he getting into directing, I think he's crushing it, and I can't wait to see what he does going forward. I didn't know a lot about the Chicago 7 prior to this. I knew a little bit about it, but not enough to really speak on it. Watching the movie, pausing it, going to Wikipedia and like looking up stuff, which I think is a hallmark of a good historical biopic, is when you're watching something, it's like, oh shit, did that really happen? Oh yeah, I guess it did happen. Or maybe these characters, all the performances are great, and by all the performances I mean all of the performances are great. If when it comes time for award season, I do not envy the person that has to pick the one person that's going to be the lead actor and supporting actor.
It would be very tough. It would be very tough.
The easy one is Sacha Baron Cohen, but Jeremy Strong, John Carroll Lynch, the guy that played Bobby Seale, Yahya Abdul Mateen II.
Yep.
Mark Rylance was fantastic.
Mark
Rylance is William Kunstler. Let's say Eddie Redmayne is Tom Hayden. Sacha Baron Cohen is, like you said, Abby Hoffman. Jerry Rubin, played by Jeremy Strong from
Eddie Redmayne in this, like he's kind of been hot and cold as far as not for me, but just in general, like people that really love his performances or really don't like his performance. I guess the one they don't like would be the what was the movie he did with the Wachowskis?
Right, Jupiter Ascending or whatever it was.
I didn't see that, so I can't speak to his performance on this. His performance in this movie, oh my god, I wasn't even watching Eddie Redmayne. I was just watching Tom Hayden. He was great in this. Everybody was fantastic in this. The movie, you mentioned it's 2+ hours, felt like 15 minutes to me. And about halfway through the movie, it felt like kind of it was wrapping up, because it does that. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, and I was getting a little sad, because it's like, oh, the movie's wrapping up, and then I checked the bar at the bottom where it shows how much time, and I'm like, sweet, we got another hour more of this. I got all excited. It doesn't. It's very rare that I watch a movie where I see that there's an hour left and I'm actually happy about it. And everything about this movie is fantastic. I love this. As you said, like my favorite movie of the year up till now was Uncle Peckerhead, and now Uncle Peckerhead and Trial of the Chicago 7 are butting head to head. I don't know who's going to come out on top, but I'm glad, I'm tickled pink that there are 2 movies this year that I love as much as I love these two.
Bruce, would this be right up there as one of your favorites? You said you liked it, so that's still good
Oh,
praise.
this would definitely be. I mean, I would be amazed if this doesn't end up in my top movies of the year. I don't know if it'll be my top movie yet. I mean, I'm just kind of waiting to see how everything falls out, but it's super good. And for what was, just like what Eric was saying, exactly what he was saying. A movie like this, if it's working right, it's entertaining in its own right. Even if you don't believe any of it's true, it should be an entertaining story, which it is. But throughout this kind of a story, you should be wanting to find out if it really happened. And I was doing the same thing. I was like, did that really happen to Bobby Seale in the courtroom? Yep, sure as hell did happen in the courtroom. Was that judge really like that? Played by Frank Langella. Thank you very much. Awesome, Frank Langella.
Awesome. Yes, very awesome. So good.
Yeah, he was pretty much what they said. I mean, throughout, there's a lot of those kind of moments. Afterwards, on top of that, I went back and watched a whole bunch about a particular person who is killed by the police during the trial. I went and looked a bunch of that stuff up.
Yeah.
I went and watched like an hour interview with Donahue in 1970 with Jerry Rubin. I went and watched a whole bunch of tape of Abby Hoffman. And if you think Sacha Baron Cohen's, accent and stuff is kind of crazy, it's really pretty spot on. And there's a couple scenes, I even stopped during the movie to watch something, and I ended up seeing a scene that wasn't in the movie with Abby Hoffman. And then I saw that scene get shown later in the movie, and I was like, oh my God, that's the same scene. I can't say enough about how awesome Jeremy Strong is in this. I mean, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He kind of comes across sometimes as almost like the dimwit, like stoner dude, which is really fun, but then he's not, and he's really smart too. It's kind of just his way of talking. It's a ton of fun. And to the directing point, and I don't know how much this is the editor versus the director, and I assume he has a big influence on this. I mean, what Sorkin's known for, the snappy dialogue and the back and forth and all this, he does that with the editing. And that's kind of what I was talking about. The way that, for example, the opening sequence, right? We can talk about that. The opening sequence kind of falls through all of the moments in the history that led up to this protest. And within like 5 minutes, we get all this, we get, newsreel footage. We get each of the main characters doing their speech leading up to the protest. And it's all done really fast and intercut, and it lets you know every character and what's going on. And it's almost like a hype, like it hypes you up and you're ready to go. And it's quite a feat. It's pretty amazing.
With courtroom dramas, one of the main failings of a lot of courtroom dramas is they can appear to be a little bit stage or play-like. And if you're fine with that confined space, those stage courtroom dramas can exist on its own and excel on its own. And I think, Eric, to your point about Aaron Sorkin being a filmmaker, never did I feel, even though it had the Sorkin dialogue, never did I feel I was caught up in a play. It felt like constant movement to me, and just a lot of mixture of just cinematic elements that Sorkin used without calling attention to himself as a filmmaker. All I know is that this movie really felt like it could really work on the big screen as well. So I really love this. I remember when I was a kid, the first time I saw 12 Angry Men and realizing, wow, it's just a bunch of dudes talking in a room, and I'm not bored. I'm totally not bored. And that's how I felt. Obviously, the Trial of the Chicago 7, because of its subject matter, it's a lot more opened up. But even saying that, with the flashbacks and all that other stuff, a lot of the material, the story takes place in the courtroom, and it didn't feel constrained or claustrophobic whatsoever. So not one boring moment for me in this movie. No. Yeah.
Yeah, there was also with the back and forth, they did a real good job of, there's one part in particular where they're cross-examining one of the police that was when Eddie Redmayne was letting the air out of the tires, and they're cross-examining him. And then they ask him a question, then they cut back to show what Eddie Redmayne's doing and what the policeman's doing while they were there. And then they cut back to him giving his answer, and it's just a complete lie. Like, just a bunch of stuff like that. It's just like, oh, yeah, that asshole. Well, you're going to get his. And then they cut to Frank Langella, and it's like, yeah, we're going to dismiss this whole thing from the court or whatever. And yeah, Franklin Gel, dude, I want to choke the living crap out of Franklin Gel the entire
so
time.
good.
And
Everyone is so good.
I was watching this, and I was, because I watched like they got like a lawyer reacts stuff on YouTube. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. I cannot give legal advice. But watching those, you get a couple ideas of what lawyers do in movies that aren't real. One of the things they do in this is like walk in the well. I guess they're not supposed to do that. Like when they walk up to the
right, where they kind of just wander around in the middle.
Yeah, apparently
area,
that's
like
something that if you do that without permission, you'll get the bailiff will take you down. I don't know how true that is. I assume it is because the lawyer said it, not me. But yeah, there's that part. And then I'm watching Franklin Gel. I'm like, there's no way. How is this person even a judge? And then, as Bruce said, look it up. That was one of the first things I looked up. I'm like, there's no way in hell this judge is that unfair and that much of a prick. And then I look it up and go, oh yeah, I guess he was.
And then doesn't that get to the point of the reality of the world, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, I mean, obviously people are going to compare it to modern times and, parallels and so on and so forth. But the point that you can have that reaction and find out that that's true, and then reflect that into the reality and the injustices that we see now and then, makes you understand the protest. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's really effective at doing that in a really entertaining package. And I think that's the trick that's almost magic about this, is the fact that it's so entertaining. And I really literally say anyone could watch this and enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Even if they don't politically follow certain things, I don't know how you couldn't enjoy it. And to have that and wrap that up, and then also have moments that really hit you in the gut on top of that, that's a really weird and interesting balancing act he succeeds with in both the script and the filmmaking. The fact that he can have that moment with, and I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a moment with Bobby Seale that's pretty much like a center moment in this movie that just kind of it should kind of floor you. And
yes.
that can happen throughout this movie.
One.
Well, there's one, there's several.
One.
That's
the
true.
One.
I mean,
yeah.
the interactions that he has throughout are just super frustrating, obviously. Yeah. But there's one that's just like, holy shit. And the fact that he can put those moments and then also have humor and then also have just pure entertainment and also have you be exalted at times and raising your fist at times, that is an amazing feat, I think.
Also it puts a mirror to the viewer, because it really, whether you're political or not, or even engaged in this historical moment, it puts you right there. Yeah. You start asking yourself while you're watching the movie, am I Bobby Seale? Am I Jerry Rubin? Would I be like Jerry Rubin? Or maybe Abby Hoffman, who really believes in the cause and will do anything? Or do you see yourself as Tom Hayden, who believes in the cause passionately, but knows that sometimes you have to ultimately join the establishment to make some progress? Whereas Abby is on a whole different planet when it comes to that. They're both very intelligent people. So it puts you right there to see, where do you personally lie within this trial, within the Chicago 7? So I found that to be very cool. And maybe that's something, Eric, Aaron Sorkin has always done. I don't know, but I felt like I was really right in the mix, and you actually start questioning your own values as far as not just protesting, about how do you conduct yourself on a political and social basis when it comes to affecting change in another person's life. I thought that was very interesting stuff.
Well, he's always done this, and actually this movie is a really, really good example of Sorkin at his best. All the characters, they all have the snappy dialogue as they do, but they also have their own points of view. And you can tell that the right point of view, or what I assume is Aaron Sorkin's point of view, kind of comes out on top. But he doesn't shy away from giving characters that he agrees with shit when they deserve it. One good example is I don't see anyone that looks like me on the stand. And then Mark Rylance says, have you ever anyone here ever show up for jury duty? No? Then shut the fuck up. It's kind of like, hey, why can't we do this? I'm like, because you don't participate. And if you don't participate, that how they can't force you to do it. This is kind of, not that this is your fault, but you're not you're not clean in this. You make mistakes just as everyone else does. And that's one of my favorite parts about Aaron Sorkin is that I don't see him as preachy because he's fair. You know, he doesn't take someone that has his point of view without giving them their due shit when they deserve it. And this movie is a great example of him doing that.
Bruce, I'm going to ask you a question. I was listening to a podcast a recent podcast with Aaron Sorkin. He was talking about some guy was really gushing over Aaron Sorkin. Everyone gushes over Aaron Sorkin, right? He's brilliant. And he asked about what has he learned as a writer over the years. And Aaron Sorkin said with this specific movie, and that's also when he did the production of To Kill a Mockingbird on stage, because of his writing, whenever the writing would go to any kind of melodrama, whenever the writing would shift to a really huge melodramatic moment, he would literally task the actors reading these lines to call him out on it. So he could push up really close to melodrama, but know when to push back. Do you see that a little bit with his work where he can get up to that edge and come back a little bit? And does it get to melodrama with Chicago 7 or not? Or does he really push back? Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it does much. There might be a couple points where you might go like, okay, the judge is just a little bit too of a bad guy. But see, once again, was he? I mean, and then there's a couple of points towards the end where people can say like, okay, that's Hollywood being Hollywood. I'm not going to say what it is because it would give you a kind of some things that happen really towards the end.
Yeah.
But part of the point here, I think, is to make entertainment too. I don't feel like this movie is it's not trying to be like a really subdued, super gritty movie. It's trying to be crowd entertainment, but giving you the facts as much as possible and giving you a ton of points of view, like Eric says, holding some of the feet to the fire to some of the people that maybe he's on the side of. So yeah, I don't think this really veers into melodrama. Rarely at all. If anything, it might veer slightly into a little bit more comedy than you might think should be there. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and it might get a little bit of crowd pleasing moments that did it happen quite that way? Maybe not quite that way, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I don't want this to be anything else than what it is. So I'm cool with the way it is. So
all right, The Trial of the Chicago 7. It's streaming on Netflix October 16th. Eric Sorkin, last comments regarding The Trial of the Chicago 7. We know you love it so much.
This comes out Friday, yes?
Yeah, Friday, October 16th.
Okay, well, I will watch it a bunch of times leading up to Friday, and then after Friday, I will watch it every day until, I don't know, I guess I wear out the Netflix.
Well, how about this, Eric Sorkin? If someone says, "Hey, Eric Sorkin, I love The Trial of the Chicago 7. What's my next deep dive regarding Aaron Sorkin? What other Aaron Sorkin movie number 2 and number 3 would you recommend? Would you steer them to right after that?"
Assuming they haven't already seen Molly's Game, Molly's Game would probably be my number 2.
Yes.
Steve Jobs is real good. Social Network, although, I mean, who hasn't seen Social Network? Anyone listening to this probably has seen that. Malice, I would check out Malice. It's kind of a bit underrated, and The American President, that one kind of leans more into the melodrama, but
yeah.
Malice and American President are the two, I guess, lesser, air quotes, lesser Sorkins. Mm-hmm. But there's if you get into them like I have, there's some joy to be had in those as well.
And we love Aaron Sorkin. Again, The Trial of the Chicago 7 opens in Netflix, streams on Netflix October 16th.